Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Appreciate you joining me today. We are going to dig in now on looking back to move forward for the Raiders in week 2. I understand that can sound like an anomaly when you talk about going back to move forward, but you'll understand here in a moment what I'm talking about. There are several things that I've revisited. Now, I've watched the game film a few times that I want to go back and talk about. I continue to hear this drumming, and I think it's coming nationally from people bemoaning what the Raiders did running the football. And it literally makes no sense to me other than a national person who understands that the Raiders have an enormous fan base and you can get a lot of clickbait out there and get people to watch. Because if you watch the football game and you anyway understand the game of football, you understand how, first of all, how are they supposed to run the ball with 8 guys in the box or eight or 9 guys committed to stopping the run? And the fact that the Raiders crushed it with the play action pass tells you that even though the Raiders kept crushing the Patriots with the play action pass, they were so worried about Ashton Ginty that they weren't going to back out of it to stop the passing attack. Now, I do not think that's how it's going to go this week. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But that's the other thing you got to talk about is play action. I mean, if they weren't worried about Ashton, when you've got Geno completing 70% of his passes and going for nearly 370, you're going to back out of stacking the box. But no, they were not going to let Ashton beat him. I talked about it last Thursday, and we're talking about it again today, and we've been talking about it since the game was over. And again, sometimes people only look at stats. And the problem is football's just not a stats game. The stats will tell you part of the story. So if you were to look at the stats, you'd say, wow, the Raiders invest all this into Ashton. But boy, he must not be very good. He didn't run for that much. Until you go back and watch the film and then realize they were stacking the box. Even when Zamir was in there, they didn't back out of it. They were committed to not let the Raiders beat them with the run. Now, why is that? Because Jimmy Harbaugh knows, because Mike Vrabel knows that Pete Carroll wants to beat him with the run. So we're going to put this to rest. If you want to bemoan it, fine. I'm not going to waste my time. There was nothing there that concerned me. No, you're sitting here 7 weeks in, and not everyone is selling out to stop the run. Then, all right, but ridiculous, just ridiculous. And I mean, I literally having people say to me, well, Geno wasn't that good. Okay, great. Whatever you want to think. I just know that this is not a perfect game. It never will be. There's a lot of people on the other side of the football paid a lot of money. Geno missed this pass, and that pass wasn't perfect. Shut up. It's not a perfect game. It can't be played perfectly. I never forget years ago interviewing Jack Nicklaus, the great golfer. And I asked him, I'm not a golf guy, and I just asked him, how long did it take you to master the game? And he literally laughed at me. And he goes, you don't golf, do you? I said, not really. And he said, don't be mad. He goes, I'm not being disrespectful. He goes, but no one masters the game of football. Of the game of golf. People don't master football either. I mean, Mike Vrabel is a tremendous defensive mind. And frankly, only gave up 20 points. That's enough to have won in this league. I used to say last year, can the Raiders just get to 21 points? No, only gave up 20. If he'd gotten to 21, he would have won. But that Raiders defense was outstanding. Now, I want to go back because watching the film, I was even more impressed with how the Raiders defense played in the first half. Not as good as the second at all, but still, I mean, they only gave up 13 points, which is pretty impressive to me. Very impressive to me. And I'm the more I watch the game, the more impressed I am with several areas of it. Now, here's the reality. There are several areas in the game that were not good. Okay, I 100% believe in JPJ. 100% believe in that kid. And he has to learn to channel his aggression. I believe that he will. So let's, I was laughing. A buddy of mine sent me something where somebody on social media was talking about Hondo calling out and saying JPJ is going to lose his job. And it's just funny because people can say whatever they want. I never said that. I said that if he continues, his job's in jeopardy, but I don't expect it to continue. He's a smart kid. He's a great player. He just has to learn. That's part of being a young player. But he's going to be fine. But there is when teams know that you can run hot, they try to do things to get you to do penalties that hurt your team. But when you go back and look at all the success the Raiders had in play action, and the Patriots never once changed. I mean, they're probably sitting there today, and I know they are. They're mad. They gave up 20 points and lost a game. The Raider fans should know what the Patriots feel today because you felt it with Josh McDaniels and you felt it last year. Can we just get to 21 points? And let's not, and I wrote this in one of my articles, we're not pretending the Raiders offense was prolific point scorers. They got to 20. But when you look at what they did and the defense they went against, it was impressive. Now, if the Raiders play on Monday night the way they played on Sunday, they're going to lose. I'll make that point right now. But we're going to talk today about going backwards so you can go forward. I thought, going back again to last week, the more I watch it, I'm just even more impressed with the defensive line. I mean, you see Adam Butler, who is one of the most soundest gap integrous players that there is. I mean, the guy has gap integrity through the roof. And so you watch him, and he's staying right on the money. And sorry, I'm turning my phone off. He's staying right on the money, like he should. And you got Tank Booker running vertically. Max, Tyree played really well. I thought Malcolm Koonce played better than I thought. I made a comment, and so that's a big deal. Let's talk about Jakobi real quick, and then I want to dig in on the Chargers. I made the comment the other day, and I stand by it. When I talk about every game that he continues to play, the price goes way up. Jakobi was not asking anywhere near $30 million, and I'm not guessing. I know exactly what Jakobi was asking for. It was not even close to $30 million. And he's not even asking for it today, even with the Lions giving their number one receiver, I think it was $34 million. He's not asking that. But the longer this goes on and he continues to play at the level he did Sunday, the price is going to keep going and going up. And you may say, well, but it's not a big deal because if they lose him, they're going to give up they're going to get a 4th round protected pick. And I said, really? What does that do? And I had several people. Well, Max was a 4th round. You're right. Max was. And a good one. Well, look, what about Koonce? Okay. Is he as productive at his position as Jakobi? No. Is Zamir? No. So you're going to give up a highly productive player when you got a whole list of 4th rounders, and other than Max Crosby, none of them are producing at his level of production? Elite level? That's not an argument. Absolutely, you can point to Max. 100%. But so you have a 20% over the last 5 years hit rate in the 4th round, better than Jakobi. And you're going to say, well, but we'll get a comp pick. And by the way, it's not a high comp pick. It's a lower 4th round pick. So it's essentially a 5. So if you're going to keep him, you re-sign him at the last year when you could have got him for a whole heck of a lot less money. The longer you wait, the price is going up. So you're going to get basically a 5th rounder, a compensatory 4th, If he's not part of the plan, they should have traded him and they would have gotten a heck of a lot more than that. A heck of a lot more. I know the teams that were calling. I'm sure I don't know all of them. I know several of them. I had friends call me. Do you think the Raiders would let him go? And I know what they were saying because then they would call me and say, no, they said he's not available. So letting this thing go on makes zero sense. And again, if he's not part of the plan, then you tell Raider Nation that and you trade him and get compensation. Sure, you're going to have people who disagree. And I had people say, but Besh and Dante are all both going to be great. Are you sure about that? You think so? They both look good. But what's the hit percentage? Let's say that one of them hits. And a 2-year extension gets you through only their first 3 years on a 4-year deal. Getting ready to go into their year 4. Doesn't make any sense to me. But that locker room is going to keep feeding him. Pete Carroll's going to keep feeding him. Gino's going to keep feeding him. It's going to keep accumulating numbers. They all want him to get his contract. And every day, now, again, if he gets injured, then it was a great move by the Raiders. If he doesn't, it will be a colossal bungle. And we'll see how this all goes. But this team played really, really well. They did a lot of things well. Not perfect. There is so much they have to fix, and let's break that down right now. So let's get into this a little bit. The expectation for everyone is perfection. You can point out on every single play things pretty much every single player does wrong. Okay? So where do the Raiders absolutely have to pick it up? So Justin Herbert did a tremendous job against the Chiefs. And I want to make this very clear. I have always said I like Justin Herbert, the kid. I think he's a decent quarterback. I don't think he's elite. He hasn't proven to me yet that he's elite. He's got size. He's got a good arm. I think that the first game of this year was the best pro game he's played. I thought he looked great last week. But how long has he been in the league? And you're still, if you're a Charger fan, you're hoping. You're hoping. He's gotten a lot of hype, but he was tremendous last week, and I give him all the credit in the world for that. But I'm not going to change a narrative of multiple games and seasons off one. Okay, the Raiders won one game. I'm not ready to declare him a Super Bowl contender. They're not. And Herbert's played one great game. I'm not ready to call him elite yet. Doesn't mean he can't be. And I like the kid. Good kid. Really good kid. And he's got a lot of those physical things, but he has to take the next step. And I think he would tell you that. When I've talked to him, very honest kid. I think Jimmy would tell you that. And but he went after the Chiefs, and then they had to sell out and blitz and really blitz a lot in the second half. And he was able to pull away and get them that win. So here's a couple of things that stood out to me. They didn't even go for over 100 yards. To me, it's going to be a real key to this game is the Raiders have to be able to get pressure with only rushing 4. I don't have a problem with an occasional blitz, just an unexpected one. But you can't, you want to be able to have 4 guys that get pressure. They love to use tight ends. They love to do those type of things. But you got to get pressure on those front 4 so you can help your guys. If the Raiders are having to blitz, they're not going to win this football game. Doesn't mean an occasional blitz. But if they're going to have to live by the blitz, I think it's going to be very difficult. Now, he got sacked 3 times. And he dealt better with the blitz at times this year than I've seen him. But still, you want to be able to get pressure. Max Crosby was an absolute wrecking ball. He was phenomenal. And here's the thing about Max. He's so good that you overlook him. Because, well, yeah, it's Max. That's what Max does. It's like if you've ever heard Whitney Houston sing. If you've ever, obviously we know she's gone, but if you ever heard Whitney Houston sing, she's so perfect. I don't care if she's doing our glorious national anthem. I don't care if she was singing any one of her songs. I probably going to take my man card for this. I had her CDs. Whitney Houston sang like an angel. If you were to think about what an angel would sing like, I think Whitney Houston had the greatest voice of all time. Just a wonderful God-given talent. And I think she was so good that she gets overlooked. You know, nowadays these kids' music, they use all these adapters to alter their voices. Whitney Houston could grab a mic and go a cappella, and people would line up and buy tickets by the tens of thousands. She didn't need this new equipment, whatever it's called. Didn't need it. And so, okay, Max is that. He just plays it so effortlessly. He's so gifted. He's so talented. And he just brings it every play. And I think they're going to continue. Thomas Booker, his his horizontal movement up and down the line, stunts. Adam Butler was so gap sound, which is really good against the Drake May of Patrick Mahomes. But he's going to be great in that run support because he's going to be in his gap. And then you got Tyree and Kuntz battling for more time, and both guys, I think both played better when I watched the film than what I thought in person. That's why you got to be real careful where your criticism comes until you see that film, just to be fair to the players. But I think that's the Raiders' MO is going to be all year. We got to get pressure with our front four, and you're bringing in Snow, and you're bringing in your other backup tackles, so guys are fresh. But the point is, you've got to get pressure. You have to move Herbert. You can't let him be comfortable. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback. I just don't think he's elite. But he is very good if he gets to stay there and doesn't have to do a whole lot and let the game develop. Get pressure with those front four and then let your back seven eat. That's a big key. Flip it over to the defensive side of the ball. This is going to be interesting. Jesse Minter, who is a defensive coordinator of the Chargers, is very aggressive. Ooh. Aggressive. He will come at you in blitzes from every angle, any down. I like it. I like aggressive football. Okay. So Geno is going to have to get the ball out quick. Now, do they stop and pressure the run? Everyone knows Pete Carroll wants to run the football. So if he wants to throw for 350 and 50 yards in rushing, Raiders will take that. I would think, just knowing Jimmy and knowing Jesse, they're going to be aggressive. That's their nature. But what I would say to you is it's going to be early in the game where we're going to know, are they selling out to stop the run? If they are, okay. Now, if I was facing the Raiders, I would say no. We are going to do a four-man rush with 7 guys, and we're going to make you beat us with the rookie. Now, I think he will, but we don't know yet. He has to do it. But like he had 1 TD run. I was talking with a buddy of mine today. He was a media member, and we were talking about his TD run. And he's like, that TD a 3-yard run. He wouldn't have scored it last year. Well, the Raiders offense wouldn't have, and probably not 2 years ago. Well, that's not true. Second half of 23 they would have, but not the first half. And so when you look at this and understand, I would take away the pass and then make Ashton set it up. That's not really how Jimmy does it, though. Jimmy's a lot like Vrabel. We're going to take away the run, take away the run, take away the run. I thought the Raiders' corners were significantly better than I thought they were going to be, and I didn't think they would be bad, but they were helped by great pressure from the defensive line. And you saw Drake May never really got to be comfortable. I think the defense needs to just do what the defense did, but I don't think the offense can win this game scoring 20 points. I think 24 is going to be the magic number. Now, because I think the Chargers offense is much better than the Patriots. So I could see a 21-24 game here, maybe a 21-20, but something like that. A 24-21, 21-20, 24-20. But these are two good defenses and emerging offenses. But the Raiders are, they can't have penalties like JPJ got, where they hurt themselves. Can't have that. I mean, they had 9 penalties. And you don't mind aggression penalties. You do mind false starts. I don't have any problem, especially after watching the film. I have zero problem with the Delmar DJ Glaze, the mule penalty. No problem with that. I have and no, it's not because I like him, because I like JPJ too. That to me, okay, I wouldn't have told them to play it any different. So you have to live with those penalties. If the guys do what you tell them to do and they get penalized, you live with it. Same way with the 2 PIs. I get it. But the Raiders are going to have to, I think, put more points on the board. And I think 24 is a win here. Maybe 21, but the way those defenses are played. But again, I just think the Chargers offense is much better. I love Omarion Hampton. Love that kid. And there were a lot of NFL teams that liked him a lot more than Ashton. Not the majority, but a lot. Probably 35, 40%. And I think he's good. And so the Raiders need to just force exactly what they did. 4-man rush, 7 guys back, and make Herbert uncomfortable. You have to move him around. And the defense needs to just continue to do what they did. Stay there. I thought the coaching was exceptional. And I got to tell you, if you go back and watch the film, especially offense, defense really, there were some minor twerks, but it was more of guys getting comfortable. But you saw some things out of Chip Kelly that were great adjustments. And again, you did see some adjustments from Patrick, but the coaching was outstanding. That's the best coaching the Raiders have had in the entire 6 years that I've covered this team. They looked like a well-coached team. In the 6 years I've covered this team, there's never been one time you've walked away saying, wow, that was just a tremendous coaching job. You maybe saw something here or there or a side of the ball. I've thought Patrick Graham several times has done good, but not the rest of the team. That was in totality great. So again, go backwards, look at what you did. There's a lot to clean up. I thought Tommy Eichenberg did some things really well. He's got some things he can clean up. He's a young player who hasn't played a ton, so he bit on a couple of things that he shouldn't have bit on. I thought the Raiders' veteran linebackers were terrific. Absolutely terrific. Eric Stokes, Caillou Blue. I've already told you, I thought IBM and Chin, tremendously impressive. So, again, I like the way that this is going, but the Raiders have to be better. The Chargers are better. I think the Raiders will win this one 23-21. something like that. I could, I don't think it's a big scoring game. And I think the Raiders will lose in Los Angeles, even though it's going to be a massive Raider crowd, just because it's coming later in the year and the Raiders aren't real deep. Can't afford a lot of injury. But I think that, and I could change that later, but I just think that this Raider team has set itself up and has really done a lot of things right. I would like to see some things cleaned up in special teams. I thought Dylan Labe was great. I was happy with all of it. But, you're kicking a 58-yard field goal. The reason that's such a big hype kick is it's very rarely done, and it was not in good weather. I'm not blaming Daniel Carlson for that. I am blaming him for the one misstep on the kickoff. Can't have those. Those kind of errors. See, the Raiders are not supposed to win this game if you just look at it straight up. Okay, I think if you were being fair and stepping away from it, making a salient point, you'd say, yeah, this is a Charger win. But I'm there in practice. I see it. I know what's going on with the Raiders. So because of that, I think they do win. But they cannot win this game and beat themselves. They're going to have their hands full beating the Chargers. Hands full. If they have to play on Monday night and beat the Chargers and themselves, no, they won't. They'll lose. And I'll point it right out and I'll remind you of Wednesday's podcast. But I am going to say one other thing that's not being talked about. This is going to be a massive Raider crowd. I bet this is 90% Raider fan. 90%. And that does not always happen at Allegiant. There is not, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to be a home crowd when the Bears are here. It's not going to be a home crowd when the Cowboys are here. I can't tell you the number of friends I have coming in from around the country for those two games. Just personal friends, on top of people I've heard from. Those are not going to be home field advantage games. At best, those are going to be 55-45 Raiders. At best, maybe 60-40 at best. But this is going to be a massive Raider crowd coming off the momentum of a week 1 win, home. And I think the crowd is going to absolutely be the deciding factor. And I'm going to be very blunt. And it's not because I'm disrespecting Raider Nation. I think they're awesome. You can't always say that at Allegiant. And I think there are wins that have been left on the table because the Raiders didn't have the home crowd. Now, how do you fix that? Go win. Go win, and your fans will show up. Period. It's simple. Win, your fans show up. I heard someone say one time, yeah, but I liked it better when the fans showed up in Oakland, even when they didn't win. I don't blame you. I would like it too. But it's not the reality. You're not in Oakland anymore, and you're not going back. So the reality is, you want to get a Vegas crowd, you have to win. You have to win. So all of a sudden now you get a win here, price of poker goes up. All of a sudden you get a win here, all right, goes up a little bit. All of a sudden now, okay, we see. Then they start showing up more, and then you keep winning. Then all of a sudden the games mean more. And when the games mean more, Raider fan ain't stupid. They'll step up. They'll be there. But you have to play meaningful games at meaningful times. And it can't be potential. I think the Raiders are going to lose 8 games this year. But I think the crowds are going to be significantly better because the people are going to see. And Raider fan is smart. They'll get it. It's going to be a great football game, but you got to go back. Look at what you did, analyze it. And that's the thing about this staff. They went through all the film with a fine-tooth comb. There was a lot. And I want one other thing I have to add. I forgot. I'm looking at my notes here. Is Chip Kelly. I mentioned this yesterday. There were things he did in the Patriot game that some people are like, what's he thinking? Remember, Chip is always thinking ahead. He is an offensive savant, like Patrick Graham is defensively. So there were things he did in that Patriot game for 3, 4, 5 weeks ahead where those teams are going to go game plan for something, and he's going to do something completely different out of that set. In my opinion, because I kept track in camp of everything I saw that was new, I bet you they've only used 15% of the playbook. Plus, there's new stuff that's going to be installed this week because they're looking at everything the Bolts did. And on both sides of the ball, they're gonna institute some new stuff. There's a lot here. I think Raiders get the victory, but they're going to go back before they can go forward. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you here tomorrow.